Hey everyone, what's up? Chaps here, and today we've got another guide for you. The new season of esports is going to start up over the next couple of months, so in this video we'll be discussing Escalation. In talking to a lot of my friends, it seems that the game mode isn't very well understood, and many people actually don't know the rules. So here we're going to make two videos. In this one, we'll be discussing the basics of Escalation. This is primarily intended for those of you who haven't played it much, or if you're just looking to get a better understanding of what's going on. In the next one, which I have no ETA on yet, I'll be breaking down a bit more of the terminology and gameplay situations. So think of this one as Escalation for Dummies, and the next one as Escalation for Advanced Dummies. Let's start off by talking about the scoring system. Escalation is a first to 7 game mode, meaning you need to win 7 rounds in order to win the match. There are 2 ways to win a round. The simplest is by reaching the score limit. In esports and matchmaking, this limit is 210 points. There are 3 rings on the map, and by controlling these locations, your team will get points. We'll talk more about the ring mechanics later, but to put it simply, control the rings, get points. The other way to win a round is a domination, or trip cap as you may hear it. This is when your team has full control. If you're able to gain full control over all 3 hills at once, your team will automatically win the round. So that seems pretty simple, but let's take a further look at some of the game's mechanics. Let's start with the ring mechanics. A ring is going to take 6 seconds to cap, and it's going to take 3 seconds to break. This isn't an insta-cap or insta-break mode like King of the Hill or some of the other variants you're used to. Another interesting fact about this capping is that the number of people in the hill seems to make very little difference. There is a slight difference, but nothing noticeable enough to warrant multiple people capping the same hill. For this reason, be sure to use teamwork wisely. No need to have multiple people standing in the hill when someone could instead be running around getting better map control. As long as a hill is marked as controlled, the controlling team will get points. It doesn't need to be fully controlled, but it does need to be captured to some extent. This may sound confusing, so let's take a look at an example. Here, you see us capturing a neutral hill. We're getting no points on it until we capture it. Once it's captured, our team starts getting points. Even if we leave the hill, we're still getting points. Now, let's say someone from the other team stands in the hill. You can clearly see that they're breaking the hill, but we still have it captured for our team. During this time, we're still getting points. If they stay in the hill long enough, the 3 seconds necessary, the hill is going to break and become neutral, so nobody's getting any points. This concept of partial versus full control becomes extremely important when looking for a victory based on domination or a trip cap. Remember, in order to win by a trip cap, you need to have full control of all of the hills. This means that if you're about to win and an enemy even begins to break the hill, your domination will stop. You must fully control the hills. The last thing about the hill mechanics is it's probably common sense that by controlling multiple hills you get points at a faster rate than controlling one hill. What might not be obvious though is that if you control 2 hills, you don't actually get 2 points per second, you get 1.5 points per second. So it's not the double that most people would assume. So that's how the ring capture mechanics work, so now let's look at the ring locations. In each round, there will be 3 hills. One hill will be located near midfield, while the other 2 will be closer to the team's spawn locations. These 2 hills closest to the spawn locations are often referred to as the home hill to whichever team spawns closest to it. At halftime, which is after round 6, the hill locations are going to change. Think of the hills as a triangle. After the change, on most maps, a triangle is essentially going to be inverted. Also note that when the hills change, most maps will have an entirely new set of hills. Dam, for example, doesn't follow this pattern though. It only changes the mid-hill, while the 2 home hills remain constant throughout the swap. This changing of hill locations can have a huge impact on the way the game plays out, and makes for better usage of the map. The hills aren't the only thing that control map usage though. Let's talk about weapon spawns. Unlike any other game mode, the map starts with no weapon spawns, and the players actually choose the weapon spawns. After each round, the MVP of the team that lost the previous round will have the opportunity to place a weapon. If you're lucky enough, or I guess you lost, so unlucky enough to be that player, you'll have 30 seconds between rounds to select a weapon. During this time, your teammates can see what you're doing, but the enemy team is left in suspense. Using up and down on the D-pad, you can navigate from location to location, and then using left and right on the D-pad, you can cycle through the weapons. Pressing A will finalize your choice, alerting the enemy team and starting the countdown for the next round. Weapons are categorized in 2 ways. You have the primary or power weapons. These are things that can only be placed in midfield spawns. You also have secondary weapons, like the longshot, marxa, and shot grenades. For For the most part, these are seen as support weapons and are placed on the sides of the map. Note that when placing a secondary weapon, you can't just place one, it will be mirrored onto the other side of the map. So if you place a long shot on your team's side of the map, the other team's going to be getting one as well. Along with these two weapon options, there is also a third option, and that is a block. If you choose, your team can block certain weapon spawn points. If you know that the other team loves putting boomshot down on a certain location on reclaimed, you can have the option to block that spawn, putting an X there. Each weapon can only be placed down one time per half, and at the end of the half, weapons are all removed. A block is also considered a weapon, so only one block is allowed per half. Once a weapon is placed, it's typically there until the end of the half. Some exceptions to these rules come into play occasionally, and it depends on the map. Because some maps have fewer spawn locations, there are only a limited number of placements possible. Once all the spots are filled up, any subsequent rounds will allow you to modify whatever you want. Note that at this time you're still not allowed to place duplicates on the map, but you are able to overwrite an existing placement. So with ring mechanics, ring points, and weapons covered, let's discuss the last basic topic, respawns. If you haven't been able to tell yet, Escalation plays unlike any other mode, and respawns follow that same trend. At the beginning of each half, the respawn timer is set to 10 seconds. Each following round, the counter is increased by 2 seconds. This goes all the way up through the last round, where if you make it to round 13, you're looking at a deadly 22-second respawn timer. With this system, it means that the value of your life becomes more and more important as the rounds go on, hence the name Escalation. Not only does this system increase the importance of a death in later rounds, but it also hurts your score to some extent. It doesn't make a huge difference in the end, but the Escalation scoreboard has a feature that isn't seen in any other mode. Here we have a time dead column, showing you the total time that you've been dead. Not only is this a unique column to this game mode, but it also has an effect on your score. There's no effect on your team score, but your personal score will lose 1 point for every second that you are dead. This escalating respawn timer may seem like a small change, but it has a huge effect on the way the mode plays out. Because of this system, the beginning of each half plays out much like a King of the Hill game type. As you approach the later rounds though, the match becomes much more in line with the classic execution style of gameplay. Not only do the respawn timers function differently in this mode, but the spawn locations do as well. In Escalation, you will always respawn at one of the initial spawn locations. You still swap sides after each round, but there will be no spawn swaps during the actual round. This is important because it means that your home hill won't be changing throughout the round. To counter the fact that your spawn times and locations are so predictable, you'll receive 6 seconds of spawn protection. Generally, this is enough to get you out of spawn, but it's certainly not enough to get you all the way to an objective or a weapon. Okay, and that's going to do it for the basics. Hopefully you were able to learn a little something from this, but remember, this was just the basics of how the mode is set up. In our next Escalation video, we're going to cover some of the terminology and situational examples. Hopefully that will help you not only with gameplay, but also understanding what's going on when watching some of these esports matches. As always, if you found this helpful, be sure to drop it a like, and subscribe to check out some of our other content. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.